potting mix. And Miracle Grow. Moisture control. Potting mix. They use bags that look an awful lot alike. It's real easy to grab the wrong one. So if you see soil, it's the wrong one. If you see potting mix, it's the right one. And I prefer to work with the 50 dry quart bags. The 50 dry quart bag is going to do approximately 2.5 5-gallon buckets. So if you want to fill up 5 buckets, you will need approximately 2 bags for every 5 plants. Now, I grow 18, and I generally have some extra soil laying around, and I will frequently just buy 7 bags. Last time I bought 8, because you do need a little bit more than 7 if you want to do a full set of 18. And that's what I do. It's crop 18. And you should be able to average a little over 2 ounces a plant. And we're just shy of 40 ounces with 18 plants. We'll end up, I think last time we did 35. We averaged 38 for a very long time. And I even did a 52 with 18 plants. But typically, if you've got, to be conservative, you have 2 ounces a plant. You got 18 plants, you got 36 ounces. That's what you should have when you harvest. And but you might end up with a little more, you might end up with a little less. And we're on a 13-week cycle. Now, what I mean by that is we harvest every 13 weeks. And there's an overlap. So those plants that had been in the nursery in the 6-inch pots, they just went over into 5-gallon buckets like a week ago. And since we're doing the veg cycle, I can go in there and turn on the lights and do whatever the fuck I want to. That would just be wasting electricity. We'll go in and look at it with a flashlight. Now they've been in there about a week. In about 2 more weeks, they will be big enough and they will have enough ulterior branching for me to cut clones. So after 3 weeks in there, we cut the clones. They go in the cloning trays in here. They will take 3 weeks to root, and then you'll transplant them into 6-inch pots. But in the meantime, you've cut your clones. Now you should turn back your lights. You cut your clones. If you want to do 3 days of clone cutting, which I frequently do, then you do the last 3 days. And on day 3, when you take that last tray of clones, that's when you turn your clocks back. Plants do not flower because they are getting less light. Plants flower because they're getting more darkness. So, if you're flowering your plants and you're at 12 and 12, 12 hours on, 12 hours off, and in the middle of your night cycle, you go walking in there with a camera and a flash bulb, yeah, 1 flash is all it takes to fuck up your plants. And you just lost a day of flowering.
Photosynthesis.
And it has to do with intensity. Because you see, I can walk in there with a flashlight, shine it on the plants, it's not going to affect them. I can turn on the light in the bathroom, and that ambient light is not going to affect the plants. It's common sense. I used to grow out in the cornfields. I used to go out during a full moon. There's quite a bit of light out there. Plants are still flowering. The light's not intense enough. So 1 millisecond of intense light will fuck you up. But an hour of low light, I do my leaching under what are essentially 20-watt CFLs. I've got plenty of light. I can see what I'm doing in there. It's not affecting the plant. The plant still thinks it's nighttime. The light's not intense enough. So I can leach during the day. I don't have to reserve my leaching for just at night, which I used to do. And after about a week, so you've gone 3 weeks, you cut your cleanse. You turn your lights back, but then you let it go about a week. First week of flowering, and it lasts anywhere from 7 to 10 days, is called elongation. It does exactly what it says. You cut those lights back, all of a sudden your plants are going to start shooting up. This is not necessarily a good thing. You have an 8-foot high ceiling. You got a foot or two worth of light. You got a foot of soil. You're working in that space between the glass and your plant. And you can't let that plant get any closer than about 20 inches to that light unless you want to burn it. Our problem is not plants that are too small. Our problem is plants that are too big. So it's very crucial to get those clones cut as quickly as you can. Push the plants into elongation and don't start any sooner than day 5. Now, plants will typically go through 7 to 10 days of elongation. If you hit your plants too early with leaching, you're going to have to go through and restake your plants, and they're going to be 6 feet high, and they're going to be touching your lights, and it's a real pain in the ass. You won't get any more weed. You'll probably get less. You'll have a lot more work. So the timing of when to leach the plants is important. Now, why do we leach the plants? Well, plants' roots operate under the principle of osmosis. Osmosis and diffusion are two different things. Throw some sugar in the water and stir it up. It diffuses. The sugar itself dissociates and separates and spreads out. That's diffusion. But the way roots work is through osmosis. Osmosis is not the movement of particles, it's the movement of water. So if you have high dissolved solids in one part and low dissolved solids in another, the water is going to move to try to dilute down the higher salt content. Now, that higher salt content, it better be your fucking plant, okay? Because if your dissolved solids are too high in the water, well, your plant's just not going to absorb water. It's not going to absorb nutrients. And it's just going to sit there. It ain't going to grow. Now here's another thing. Miracle Grow uses a cheap fertilizer. Everybody uses it because it's cheap. Urea. And
It's what's in urine, right?
It's a cheap source of nitrogen. And the problem is that plants can't absorb urea. Bacteria must first break down the urea. What do bacteria make? Well, think about bacteria in your mouth. What do they make?
Bad breath.
They make
like a residue.
cavities.
Yeah, they basically make holes in your freaking gums.
How do they make holes in your teeth and with cavities?
Good question.
What's the bacteria doing?
It's making
acid.
Acid, that's right.
It's making acid.
Too much acid, not a good
So
thing.
for 30 days, your plants have been sitting in that fucking bucket. When you bought that Miracle Grow, its pH was 6.8. After a month, it's 5.8. This is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
You see, when your pH drops below about 6.3, your plant can no longer absorb phosphorus, which is a key nutrient, particularly in flowering.
Mm-hmm.
It causes purple leaves. See all those pretty purple plants they show you? Yeah, those are people who fucked up and depleted their phosphorus. And yeah, the purple leaves look pretty, but your weed's probably no fucking good. Looks pretty. Takes a good picture. But that's your first sign of a phosphorus deficiency. That is somebody who didn't leach their soil because they let their pH drop below 6.
Michael. Sorry.
And the plant, the attention span of a flea fly. I mean,
A flea fly. There's 10 minutes in.
so, at any rate, at about a week, we've cut our clones. We've waited about a week. We're now at about day 30. You ever notice on that big bag of soil it says this product good for about 30 days? That's what they mean. They mean 30 days. So then what you have to do is you have to take all the plants. I have built a leaching rail that I'll show you. Fits perfectly in my tub. Been using it for 10 years. It's basically 2x4s laid on their side with two 7-inch beams separating them, held together with L brackets. And we can put 3 plants on the leaching rails at a time. And it turns out I have 3 in a row. So we have 6 rows. So that means when it comes time to leach, the most you can really handle is 2 sets in a day. So leaching takes 3 long, miserable days. When you pick up the plants at first, they'll be fairly light because I don't water them before leaching. I let them get light so I can pick them up and get them in there. But when we're done leaching, fucking weigh a ton. And they have to be removed from that leaching rail. And they have to go back out into their tins and put back in a row so the next set of 3 can go up. And we have to go through there and leach all the plants. And this is what we're doing when we're leaching. And there are 1/2-inch holes in the bottoms of all of my buckets. And there's plenty of them. Because good drainage is very important. And we will initially pour 8 to 10 gallons of tap water right through each bucket. It takes quite a while. Filling up those gallon buckets and pouring it and filling up the gallon buckets and pouring it. And you got to keep count. And when you get up to about 8, you're probably okay. Then you can take little vials, slide that. This is why we have a leaching room, so that you can slide the vial underneath to collect the effluent, that which has already passed through the soil. Because we're going to measure the pH and the dissolved solids. We want our dissolved solids to be under 600. Now, our dissolved solids of our tap water here is 350 to 400. So you're not going to get below 350 or 400 no matter how much water you pour through it. But if you can get it down under 600, you're good. Because now your dissolved solids in your soil are very low. And that means that water wants to move towards the roots of your plants, which are very high in salt. So low salt environment out here, high salt environment here, water is going to move to the plant filled with nutrients, and your plants will take off like fucking Jack and the Beanstalk. And they do. I've had plants grow over an inch overnight after leaching.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the ideal time to hit it is about day 5 or 6. But remember, it's going to take 3 days. So you start on day 5, you go day 5, day 6, day 7. And at the end of that week, then all your plants are leached. And then they typically do not need to be watered again for about 8 days. And I will go to the first row that I leached and wait for them to get light. And I want to do all my leaching as quickly as possible and as close together as possible, because then you have to start breaking it up and you're watering out of sequence. And I like to do everything all at once the same way. It's a production facility. We're an assembly line here. We don't fuck around with individual plants. We're not watering this row and then that row. No. Worst comes to worst, it takes me 6 days to get it all done. I break them into 2 groups of 9. And then one group of 9 will get watered first. Those were the first ones to be leached. And then the next cycle, all of them get watered. And then they're all on the same cycle. But best case scenario is we just knock them off in 3 days. And after about day 8 or 9, we can just start feeding them. And they always get 50 ounces per watering. That's what a Tropicana jug holds, 52 ounces. We always mix up our fertilizer the same way. I want my fertilizer to have a pH of 6.8. Now, the fertilizer that I use, see, after we leach, we just flushed out all the bacteria and urea. We've adjusted our pH. Now our pH is 6.8. Our plants can absorb nutrients at 6.8. They love it. That's where they want to be. Our dissolved solids are very low. And so the plant is now ready to just suck up nutrients like crazy. And that's when they go through their big growth spurt. And start too soon, your plants will be too big.